Hi, today we're going to be talking about photosynthesis. Caroline and I will take you across Sewanee and show you kind of how photosynthesis is made in kind of simpler terms. And this is our source of glucose, which is pretty much all of our food. Photosynthesis is a two-step process. There is the light-independent reaction and the Calvin cycle or light-dependent reaction. In this video, Caroline will be showing you how the plant goes through each process. First, starting in Fulford, we're going to be showing the light-dependent reaction. The light-dependent reaction uses NADP to carry hydrogen atoms, which is used, so you can see Caroline carrying the NADP with the hydrogen atoms. Because there is no carbon dioxide here, the light-dependent uses light to kind of scatter the electrons throughout the thylakoid membrane in the chloroplast. This converts light energy into chemical energy, ATP and NADPH. This splits the H2O and releases 1/2 O2. There are two places where the light kind of goes through, and there's a lot of hydrogen atoms pumping through into the thylakoid membrane. There we get the NADP plus and H plus turning into NADPH, also some ATP from ADP. This then releases some O2. Next, we get into the Calvin cycle. The first step of the Calvin cycle is carbon fixation. This is a light-dependent reaction. First, carbon dioxide is needed, 3 molecules of carbon dioxide, and your 3 rubisco will make 3 glycerate 3-phosphate or GP. Next, the reduction of the glycerate 3-phosphate, and this will convert it into triose phosphate, which uses NADPH and ATP to create your 6-triose phosphate. The last process is the regeneration of the rubiscose. 1 TP molecule is used to form half of a sugar molecule. So the remaining TP molecules, which is 5, turn back into the rubisco from the 3 carbons of each of them. This requires energy from the hydrolysis of ATP. Photosynthesis is key to pretty much every aspect of life. We all get our food from plants, whether it's from an animal that ate a plant or directly from a plant. Plants are our source of life and our source of glucose. Therefore, we must think about photosynthesis as the key to our life. Photosynthesis also produces O2, which we need to breathe, and takes in the CO2 that we produce when we breathe. See that sandwich Abigail's working on? That stuff is fueled by photosynthesis. We need the glucose to survive and to produce energy. Glucose has the necessary ingredients for part of cellular respiration, which is glucose turning into ATP, which we need to move and make more sandwiches. You could also compare photosynthesis to reading a book, for example. Caroline takes the book, then puts it away. That's not giving her any knowledge or energy. But kind of like how hydrogen and electrons are produced or pumped out, we can kind of see bits and pieces and finally start to form some thoughts and learn some new things. Reading a book requires energy, however, very similar to photosynthesis requiring energy. However, you may gain more out of it than you're putting into it, kind of like how photosynthesis works and how we're able to create glucose, which then in cellular respiration creates a lot more energy than what the plants are putting in to put out of it. Also, kind of how like Caroline is going to put the book away, the rubiscose is reused and kind of regenerated in the process of photosynthesis. We could kind of come back to it when the Calvin cycle restarts again, and there it is. Or it could also be compared to working on a paper. You start off with a certain amount of products, and then eventually you end up with more products. And sometimes you have to reuse some of the same research and knowledge, And other times you're taking in new things, like how we take in light, we take in the CO2, and maybe sometimes you delete some things, like removing something like oxygen. We need energy for basically everything, and at the core of this energy is our glucose from photosynthesis. We need energy from everything from going up the stairs, to working on our papers, to making a sandwich, to reading a book. We need energy for everything. Therefore, photosynthesis is the key to life and the key to energy, to doing the things we need to do, the things important to us, most important to us, the things we want to do, and enjoying nature. I feel very lucky to be studying at Sewanee, where it's so green, and that I can see the world's plants and trees and beautiful things in action working in everyday life, making the air cleaner and easier to breathe, and also providing nutrition for me and everyone around me. I hope this video was informative about the synthetic process and that it had some analogies and examples about how it's used in the real world and comparing the different parts of the light independent reaction, the Calvin cycle, and the light dependent reaction. Thank you.